Caitlin Clark was supposed to be the biggest success story the WNBA had seen in decades. From the moment she entered the league, everything changed almost overnight. Ticket prices exploded, arenas started selling out, television ratings jumped to levels nobody expected, and suddenly, the WNBA became part of mainstream sports conversation every single day. That kind of impact from one rookie is almost unheard of in professional sports. But instead of feeling like the beginning of a golden era, the conversation surrounding the league has turned into something far more tense, emotional, and controversial. Now the spotlight is no longer just about basketball. It's about the growing divide between longtime WNBA culture and the massive new audience that Caitlin Clark brought into the sport. And according to many fans watching this unfold in real time, that divide is getting uglier by the week. The latest controversy surrounding Connecticut Sun head coach Stephanie White only poured fuel onto a fire that was already burning out of control. After her team faced the Indiana Fever in a physical and emotionally charged matchup, social media exploded with criticism from fans who believed Clark was once again being targeted with excessive contact and rough treatment on the court. The backlash became so intense that White eventually deleted her X account, and that decision instantly became one of the biggest talking points in the basketball world. To a lot of fans, this wasn't just a coach stepping away from social media for peace and quiet. They saw it as a symbol of how heated the entire Caitlin Clark conversation has become. Every game involving Clark now feels bigger than basketball itself. Every foul gets replayed endlessly online. Every hard screen, shove, or collision becomes a viral debate. And every coach or player involved immediately gets pulled into a massive online storm. The reality is that Clark entered the league carrying pressure that almost no athlete has ever experienced. She wasn't simply the #1 draft pick. She arrived with millions of fans already emotionally invested in her success. She came into the WNBA with the eyes of the sports world locked onto her every move. That level of attention changes everything around a league, especially one that has spent years trying to grow its audience. The numbers alone tell the story. Fever games suddenly became must-watch television. Networks started prioritizing WNBA broadcasts in ways they never had before. Clark jerseys disappeared from stores almost immediately after release. Road arenas had to move games into bigger venues just to handle the demand whenever Indiana came to town. Even casual sports fans who had never watched women's basketball before suddenly knew who Caitlin Clark was. But massive popularity also created tension. A lot of longtime fans and analysts began noticing the physical treatment Clark was receiving on the court. Some argued it was normal rookie adjustment. Others believed veteran players were simply testing a young superstar the same way every sports league challenges new talent. But another section of fans saw something more deliberate happening. They believed Clark was being treated with a level of hostility that went far beyond competitive basketball. That perception only intensified after several high-profile incidents throughout the season. Hard fouls, off-ball contact, hip checks, aggressive defensive pressure, all of it became central to the public conversation surrounding the league. Social media turned into a non-stop battleground between fans defending physical play and fans accusing the league of failing to protect its biggest attraction. And this is where Stephanie White unexpectedly became part of the storm. When Connecticut faced Indiana, fans immediately focused on the defensive intensity Clark dealt with throughout the game. White's team played tough, aggressive basketball, and many viewers online felt it crossed the line. The criticism spread fast. Thousands of comments flooded social media accusing the Sun of targeting Clark physically instead of simply trying to outplay her. Whether people agree with those accusations or not, the reaction itself says something important about where the WNBA currently stands. Caitlin Clark has created an emotional connection with fans that few athletes ever achieve. People are deeply protective of her already. They feel personally invested in her success, and when they believe she's being treated unfairly, the response becomes explosive. That's exactly what happened after the Connecticut game. White's social media mentions reportedly became flooded with criticism. Fans attacked the team's style of play, questioned the officiating, and accused the league of allowing Clark to be bullied on national television. Soon after, White deleted her account, and immediately, the internet treated it like a major moment in the ongoing Caitlin Clark debate. Now, to be fair, social media has become toxic for coaches, players, and public figures across all sports. Stepping away from online platforms doesn't automatically mean someone is admitting wrongdoing. Sometimes people simply don't want to deal with non-stop negativity, but in today's sports environment, perception becomes reality almost instantly. And for many Clark supporters, White leaving social media felt like confirmation that the backlash had become impossible to ignore. At the center of all this is a much larger question about the future identity of the WNBA. For years, the league fought desperately for mainstream visibility. Players and coaches pushed for more attention, better coverage, larger audiences, and greater financial opportunities. Then Caitlin Clark arrived and suddenly brought unprecedented attention to the entire sport. But instead of unity, the league now feels split between embracing this new era and resisting it. Some fans believe veteran players resent the amount of attention Clark receives. Others argue that narrative is unfair and disrespectful to athletes who spent years building the league before Clark ever arrived. And honestly, both sides of that conversation have valid points. The truth is, Clark's popularity is extraordinary. Very few rookies in any sport have ever entered a professional league already functioning as its biggest television draw. That naturally changes locker room dynamics, media coverage, and fan expectations overnight. Some players have openly said the league was already filled with elite talent long before Clark arrived, and they're not wrong. But Clark undeniably accelerated the league's visibility in ways nobody can realistically deny. That's why every incident involving her becomes magnified beyond normal basketball discussion. When she gets hit hard during a game, it becomes national sports debate. When she struggles, critics rush to question whether she's overrated. When she succeeds, supporters point to ratings, attendance, and jersey sales as proof that she's transforming the league financially. Everything surrounding her carries extra emotional weight. And through all the noise, Clark herself has continued evolving on the court. Early in the season, she looked overwhelmed at times by the speed and physicality of professional basketball. Defenses trapped her aggressively, veteran players pressured her non-stop. Turnovers piled up, critics started questioning whether the transition from college to the WNBA would be harder than expected. But over time, Clark adjusted. Her passing became sharper, her decision-making improved. She started reading defenses faster and controlling games more effectively. Instead of shrinking under pressure, she appeared more comfortable embracing it. The scoring remained explosive, but what really stood out was her growth as a complete floor general. She began elevating teammates, managing tempo, and finding ways to impact games even when defenses focused entirely on stopping her. That development only made the debates surrounding her even louder. Supporters now see her not just as a popular rookie, but as the future face of women's basketball. Critics continue arguing that media obsession with Clark overshadows other stars around the league. Meanwhile, every nationally televised game feels emotionally charged because the atmosphere surrounding the WNBA has fundamentally changed. The Stephanie White situation became symbolic of that larger tension. On one side, there are fans demanding the league protect its biggest star more aggressively. On the other side, there are people insisting Clark should simply adjust to professional physicality like every other rookie before her. And stuck in the middle are coaches, referees, veteran players, league executives, and media personalities, all trying to navigate an environment that suddenly feels far more intense than ever before. The financial side of this conversation is impossible to ignore, too. There's no question that Clark's arrival has created enormous business momentum for the WNBA. Ratings increases have been dramatic. Merchandise sales skyrocketed. Attendance surged across multiple markets. Even opposing teams benefited financially every time Indiana visited their arena. That kind of economic impact naturally raises the stakes around everything happening on the court. Fans look at those numbers and wonder why the league wouldn't do everything possible to protect the player driving so much attention. Critics of the current physical play believe the WNBA risks damaging its biggest opportunity if games continue turning into non-stop controversy. Meanwhile, others argue basketball is a physical sport, and Clark cannot be treated differently simply because she's popular. That debate is probably not going away anytime soon. What makes this entire situation fascinating is how emotional it has become. Sports debates are usually about wins and losses, but the Caitlin Clark conversation now touches on identity, recognition, respect, business growth, media narratives, and the future direction of women's basketball itself. People are no longer just arguing about one player. They're arguing about what the WNBA should become moving forward. And honestly, the league is walking a very delicate line. The WNBA absolutely benefits from physical, competitive basketball. Nobody wants games decided by soft officiating or constant whistles. But at the same time, leagues historically protect their biggest stars because stars drive audience growth. The NBA understood that with Michael Jordan. The NFL understands it with quarterbacks. Every major sports league eventually realizes that keeping generational talents healthy and marketable is critical to long-term success. That's why these conversations keep escalating whenever Clark takes hard contact. Fans don't just see a rookie getting fouled, they see the face of a rapidly growing league taking punishment night after night. Whether that perception is fully fair or not almost doesn't matter anymore because public opinion has already formed around it. And now, every coach involved in games against Indiana risks becoming part of the controversy. Stephanie White learned that firsthand. What may have once been viewed as a normal physical basketball game suddenly became national debate because Caitlin Clark was involved. The online reaction became overwhelming, and White stepping away from social media only intensified the scrutiny surrounding the entire situation. At this point, the WNBA faces enormous pressure moving forward. The league has more attention than ever before, but attention also means higher expectations, greater criticism, and non-stop public analysis. Every officiating decision, every hard foul, every media comment gets dissected instantly by millions of passionate fans. And right in the center of it all is Caitlin Clark. She represents excitement, ratings, controversy, opportunity, pressure, and change all at the same time. Some people view her as the future savior of the league. Others push back hard against the idea that one player should overshadow everyone else. But regardless of where anyone stands, one thing is undeniable. She has changed the entire conversation around women's basketball. Now, the biggest question is whether the WNBA can successfully navigate this new era without tearing itself apart in the process. Because right now, every game feels bigger than basketball, every controversy feels amplified, and every public reaction seems to push the tension even higher. The passion surrounding this league has never been stronger, but neither has the division surrounding its brightest new superstar. And as this season continues, all eyes remain locked on Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever, and a league trying to balance physical competition, explosive growth, veteran pride, and the arrival of a once-in-a-generation phenomenon that changed everything the moment she stepped onto the court.